put in bold the issues that pertain to our discussion of the day. Provide an effective routine health information system incorporating major NCD data with the constraints that I've already mentioned, that this relies on who is presented at our health facilities. I should also say that in terms of the national health information, we are not privy to what happens in the private sector. So that information, we are anxious to find a way of getting it, so that when we report in the National Health Information System, we are reporting for all Zimbabwe, not just the public side of things. So that one is works in progress. Also to provide the policy and strategic guidelines on the prevention and control of NCDs. We are actually currently working on a strategic plan to address NCDs in the country. What we have recently worked on is the National Cancer Prevention and Control Strategic Plan. And I'm happy to leave a copy with the organizers with provision to get more communicable diseases. So just going by our current plans, we would want to reduce the burden of selected non-communicable diseases with the objective of increasing the proportion of health facilities that routinely screen and appropriately manage selected NCDs, namely diabetes, hypertension, cancers of the breast, prostate, bowel, eye and ear conditions. If I may give the example of the eye conditions, we grossly low when it comes to cataract surgical rates, and cataracts are quite easy to deal with. So, but what it means is a lot of people are blind in this country, and yet they do not need to be blind. So that's one NCD that we could actually readily tackle with support even from partners in the private sector, and work on reducing or making favorable the surgical rate and reduce the blindness due to cataracts. The other one is trachoma. Trachoma has come back because of the water, sanitation and hygienic conditions, and some people are blind and they must not be blind. So there are some of the NCDs that we could really tackle very fast and make sure that we then turn our attention on those that are slow to improve on. I will leave the organizers with this presentation, so don't worry about what you can't read. But my point in putting it down was just for you to appreciate the diversity of NCDs compared to what this country has capacity to handle. So in terms of the health promotion component, we also ensure that we make the nation aware of several days that raise the profile of certain of the NCDs, including the World Health Day. I think last year the theme was on around cancers, the World Sight Day, the World Diabetes Day, Breast Cancer Month in October. We've also made ourselves more visible to the public so that they can ask questions outside of a clinic or a hospital setting by participating in the Harare Agricultural Show and the Trade Fair. Also making sure that we disseminate some IEC materials. So we are still very much curtailed in terms of getting requisite funding to optimize our approach to non-communicable diseases, apart from what I've mentioned. So we're still very anxious to conduct the NCD risk factor survey, because if you're going to do any intervention, you want to know what the prevalence of all the NCDs is in the country, so that you design an approach to dealing with. However, when it comes to treatment of those NCDs that are already with the population, counseling is very key. I remember years ago when I was still doing clinical work at a provincial hospital, a very big nurse breaking down on me. She actually cried because we had discovered that she's hypertensive. So the reason why she was crying was because she's already diabetic. So Chiremba, how can I be hypertensive as well? And this is a a sister in colors, you know, and you'll think she is the best person to be counseling not only other patients but also junior nurses, and even us then who were younger in the profession. But she actually broke down. She couldn't take it. She was okay dealing with one NCD in her life, but having hypertension added. So counseling becomes very key, and with NCDs, like we said, some of them of course are associated with affluence. So they also affect a critical number of us in here. So the counseling should not just be directed at the patients. We should also make sure that even the carers, including those in the room, are also adequately taken care of. So counseling becomes very key, especially making the person know that they are in control and they can do so much more to improve their circumstances, besides dealing with a chronic and perhaps lifelong illness. But of course, the healthy lifestyles, sometimes it's difficult, but I know a number of people who have gradually reduced their sugar intake until a point that they no longer take sugar, and it's okay, because some of these things are acquired tastes. Improving on physical activity, it may start difficult, but it is doable and it is possible. And when we talk about retracing and going back to our lifestyles as African Zimbabweans, we had a lifestyle that we had inbuilt physical activity in it. Because if you wanted water, there was physical activity to get that water in the house. The same with firewood, the same with making sure that your livestock graze properly. You walk them for grazing, and you are up and about the whole day. So there was always physical activity about Jija and Chirimo, you know, the rainy season when you are very active in the field, but also even in the dry season. But what do we now do? We even have invented a remote. So if you don't want to sit the whole day, if you don't want to move the whole day, you can actually just be sitting and things are at the end of your fingertips, because we've done all these gadgets that make us greatly reduce physical activity, but at the same time eating more than what our bodies require. So there are useful dietary lifestyle changes that we can embark on, but also the screening. Screening is very important so that you detect early and you know what to do. If you're prone to getting gout, if the levels are high in your blood without the symptoms, then you already know what to do so that you don't get to have the gouty attacks. Hyperlipidemia and so on. Regular food care and examination, regular blood glucose checks. So there is a lot that can be done. We've also seen a growing epidemic in the urban poor, but also the urban rich. So, but when you look at diagnostics, it becomes very expensive. That's why you see, when we're looking at the centers that are going to start working on comprehensive approach to prevention and care of some selected NCDs, we're just improving them from 9 to 19. And yet, this country has got about 1,500 health facilities, of which 63 are district hospitals. So we're still lagging behind in terms of making sure that we have got all those diagnostic equipment and capacities in all our health facilities. So are we really talking about a new pandemic here? I think it's more of a newly acknowledged pandemic. This problem has always been there. As I said, sometimes the more visible, the more dramatic issues take precedence, and you can easily forget about the silent epidemics, but they will still be chewing up your people. So as I said, it starts with you and me. What am I doing to instill even in our children, if we teach them when they are young about the good eating habits? We've seen parents who reward their children with a pizza every day, and the fast foods. So of course, the fast foods are meant to entice you so that you keep coming back. But the Slow food, we need to go back to Great Zimbabwe. Eating the slow food, but improving on the physical activity. So we can do so much more as individuals, and we can also use our influence as professionals to say to people, it is okay to boil your beans, to take your rice brown, and put dough in it, and put it in your bag when you're going to work, and not snack on these foodstuffs. Talking to community level women, they always look down when I ask them, do they know what is in jiggies? Because this is the in thing. Wanakangochema, mupe ima jiggies. And I suspect it may even be the first meal of the day, because that child will know that once I start crying, I'll get jiggies. So I asked the common woman to say, do you know what went into the color of that stuff? What makes it taste sweet? Taste good? What are the flavorings? What are the, the preservatives? And what is the actual food value in that snack? And yet you see them even in church when this child is fidgeting, in the bag somewhere it's always there. That packet of junk, and we don't know what it is. And when you treat children with malnutrition, you ask the mother or the guardian to say, what are you feeding this child on? Oh, potatoes and yogurt. And yet you can tell that in this community where this woman comes from, perhaps once or twice a year, this is when they see that food. But there is a lot of locally available food that is full of goodness. So we are actually starting and fueling obesity pandemics, even in our children. And once they get into that habit, it's difficult to break it. So that's why I'm saying we can do so much more as individuals, as parents, but also as professionals. So the question is, what have you started doing about it? And soon after this conference, what are we going to do? I will end there, and thank you very much, and wish you a very conference.
I will not entertain questions for now. I think in pursuit of time management, so that the next chair will not be scrambling, I will give you time at the end of our next presentation, which is going to be made by our guest. After I finish reading his CV, please don't call him President Basato. Huh? I warn you. But his CV is akin to that of President Obasanjo. You can now understand that clearly he is from Nigeria, but he is a Southern African. He is a Pan-Africanist. He is a professor of family medicine at the University of Limpopo in Pretoria, Medunsa campus, and is the head of the Department of Family Medicine. He is also the president of the South African Academy of Family Physicians. He is the vice president of the College of Medicine of South Africa. You see, there are these presidents. He is the editor of the South African Family Practice Journal. And we should not just listen to the high-sounding titles. We should be interrogating ourselves. What are we doing in our own setting? Do we have a family medicine journal? If not, why? Do we have a community pharmacy journal? If not, why? That's why I'm taking time between the lines, so that, we learn. Okay. He's editor of the South African journal. Now he has also published 165 original articles, researches, etc., etc. Not in newspapers, not in the Herald, the Newsday, but in peer-reviewed journals. You know what that means? It means distilled water. It's not just water from Lake Mtiniku. It's distilled water. It's pure. So, when I joined the college many years ago, Professor, I will not say his name now, but I want people to really get a lesson from this great man who is on my right side. One of the key issues that was institutionalized or was part of the DNA of the College of Primary Care was research. And when we joined, I haven't seen any research from our college. Yes, we here in Masvingo, we tell it like it is. That's how we are. We just tell people the truth. So, Professor, ladies and gentlemen, we have in our presence today a man who is going to talk about obesity. Don't look at me. And start calculating my body mass index. But you should also look at me and say, how do I carry this body? I must be exercising. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to welcome Professor Ogubanjo from the University of Limpopo.
Colleagues, good morning. Sawubona. There are 3 screens here. For a right-handed, I write. For those who are left-handed, you can turn to my left. For those who want to stay right in front, you can look right ahead. But just to quickly share, first I'd like to thank CPCZ for inviting me. It seems that I'm a family, and because I've been here now 2 or 3 years in a row. So if it's like an election, I have to reapply for the election. The other important point is that I'd like to thank PSZ. They've always been so nice to pick me up from the airport. Always. So thank you very much. And the lady that picked me up yesterday, we had a long chat right from Harare to Masvingo that we didn't know that it was over 300 kilometers. Thank you. Having said that, it was very prophetic. Someone was talking about an anointing, that this is the anointing point. And I'll tell you, there was a guy that was presenting, and you know those pastors that like to heal, to be touched, and says there's someone here who needs healing. And one guy came out quickly, it's rent a crowd. He came out, he says, it's me you are talking about, pastor. And he says, okay, let me touch you. And just as he was about to touch it, his cell phone rang. That's of the patient or the person to be touched. And then the guy says, hold on, pastor, just hold on. And he answered and says, who is that? He says, sorry, I'm under anointing right now. Come back later. Now, there are quite a few things. I took a flight and I sat next to someone who came only for 2 hours because I got chatting with him when I saw what he was reading. It's always good to look at what someone reads when you're in the plane. He was reading a strategic document and it was titled Fast Tracking Fast Foods in Zimbabwe. Fast Tracking Fast Foods in Zimbabwe. So I got talking with him because I said, you know, it's very prophetic again. That I sit next to someone who is presenting fast-tracking fast foods in Zimbabwe. And I was to talk about the obese patients in Zimbabwe. Finally, I looked at the program. And you can look at a copy of the program. There's nothing that relates to us practically dealing with NCD as professionals. And what do I mean? There's not been a time created for us to leave these comfort zones where we are seated on and go on an aerobic activity. So, President, before we leave tomorrow, either people have to walk to the great Zimbabwe ruins as part of our contribution towards NCD. So now let's go to the obese patients. I looked again, you know, it's always good to think, because that's how you got research. And it says, bracing ourselves for tomorrow's pandemic. Sorry, the title should have been, we have lost the battle of the pandemic. And why do I say we've lost the battle of the pandemic? Is that already there is a pandemic. And if anybody tells you that it's tomorrow, it was yesterday. The horse has already bolted out. What can we do about it to arrest that horse that has already bolted? What's happening with this? Is this made in China or made in Zimbabwe? It's Chinese, I was told. And we are friends with the Chinese. I'm the one between you and tea. So you will bear with me. I'm going to move very fast, but the number of critical issues. Can I just drop this? Speak without. I've got a loud voice. I preach in the church. So if you get some anointing after the end, come and see me after. What I'm going to do is take you on a journey. And the way to take on a journey is to say, what are we going to talk about? If we don't know what obesity is, then we may not actually deal with the problem of obesity. Madam Director, I want to challenge you. And listen carefully. Is it being recorded? Thank you. Me lady. That's not my lady. Me lady. I put it to you that to do your next survey, you do not need money. You need people. And these are the people to help you. In terms of a national surveillance, please take down their email addresses. Because all you just need is a crude prevalence rate of any of these things you're dealing with. You don't have to be perfect, and just tell them that, yes, please, from your practice population, we need this over a period of time. They've got the data, and then you can sweeten it by giving them something little. In Kiswahili, you call it kitu kidogo. Just a little bit. And I'm sure already this is the network that you need, and then you use the other network, which is your health facilities, and within a month, you will have completed that next survey of NCDs. And after you've done that, I will send you my bill. Good. Right, so basically, let's just go through this, my outline. And there are a number of key factors we need to know. And I'm just going to pick on a few things. It was already identified back in 1980 that we had a problem. So we're already 40 years behind that epidemic. And at that time, we already had 1.4 billion adults with problems of overweight and obesity. At the same time, if you just look, this is 2008, we already had 500 million, 200 million men and 300 million women already obese. That's 500 million, as far back as 2008. What am I saying? This is a bigger epidemic or pandemic than HIV/AIDS. The only thing about HIV/AIDS is it's very sexy. And the issue around obesity is we don't like to look at ourselves. It starts by looking at ourselves before we can deal with our patients. And already, the main problem of obesity is not in the developed countries. It's in the developing countries. We are all developing countries where, and you just need to see it. Pre-1994 in South Africa, the men were asleep. The politicians were asleep. Check those same politicians that have been there up to 20 years post. All you need to do is look at the photographs. What am I saying? The more we seem to be affluent, the more we run into trouble. About 35.3 million who are living with HIV as of 2012. At that same time, we had already more than 500 million people living with the problem of obesity. That is times 14 if you just do your maths. So already we have a bigger problem to deal with. It's always good to know what BMI means. It's basically, and this doesn't cost much. All you need is a scale, and you need somewhere to mark the height in your rooms. So that it's a ratio of the weight in kilograms and the height in centimeters or meters. And you square that one in meters, and you divide your weight by that, and two figures to remember. If it's 25 and above, it's overweight. Anything above 30 is obesity. So if you don't remember any figures today, 25, 30. So if you are already 25, you've got a problem. If you are 30, you've got a greater problem. Let's move on. And I've just given you an idea, and we can even grade above 30. 30 to 34.9 is grade 1. 35 to 39.9 is grade 2. When you are above 40, it's, oh Lord, I'm coming home. Where we need to address this issue more critically is with our children. Mothers, grandmothers. This is an opportunity for you to love your children, but don't kill them. Because when you help them to indulge in those things that will kill them, most probably, instead of them burying you, you may actually be the one that will bury them. Amongst our colleagues, they stare us amongst our patients, they stare us everywhere. And in the developing nations, such as South Africa, Zimbabwe, the problem is already in our faces. How do we turn the tide? Just between Harare and Masvingo, I counted. There are actually more fast food outlets than any other thing. All you just need to do is just check. We stopped somewhere. There were two guys competing to sell chicken and chips. You know exactly, Puma. One was the old one, chicken pieces. Now, on the other side now it's KFC. And the place was full. Let's ask ourselves why. Just this little one shows the top 10. You know, there's always the top 10